Hey Bev, it's Kaz here, just working through some math today. So let's check what we got going on here. Looks like we're solving some equations, which is pretty cool. So when I'm always thinking about these problems, I want to take care of the parentheses first. So I'm gonna go. If I see parentheses, I want to kind of get rid of those. So I see parentheses here in the magenta. And so I'm going to try to take care of those, simplify those parentheses out, and then I'll get to solving the equation. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it all. So x minus 4 equals 2x. And then I'm going to view this as negative 2 multiplied by 3. So if I multiply negative 2 times 3, that's going to give me -6 or -6, it's kind of the same thing. So now so we took care of parentheses, right? We got our parentheses taken care of. Now I want to get my variables on one side of the equal sign and my numbers on one side. And so for this one, I noticed that this x is less than this 2x, and I like dealing with positive variables more. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that x. Let's make this pen a little bigger. Minus x from both sides of the equal sign. And then that's going to leave me with -4 over here equals 2x minus, treat this as a 1x, right, is going to give me just x here. So just 1x minus 6. So I got my variables on one side. Now it's time to get my numbers on the other side. And to do that, I'm going to use inverse operations. This is x minus 6. So I want to undo that -6 by adding it. And that's going to give me -4 plus 6 is 2 equals x. And just check on that answer key, make sure we did it right. 17. Yeah, it looks like 2, so we did it. Hoorah. Okay, cool. So we got that one done. And like I said, so I like to take care of parentheses first and then get the variables on one side and numbers on another, and then solve using inverse operations. So those would be like my 3 steps. Doesn't matter which side you get the variables or numbers on, they just have to be on one side or the other. Okay, so here, first off, I see a bunch of parentheses, so I'm going to use the distributive property to get rid of those. So -2, I'm going to multiply that through. Okay, and so a common misconception when we do this is people forget about this negative sign here. So I always group that with the term. So -2 times 7, that first little rainbow here, is going to give me -14. And then -2 times -2k is going to give me a positive 4k. Okay, and then I come here and I keep this negative with the number, and I say -3 times k gives me -3k, and -3 times 4 gives me -12. It's all equal to 19. Okay, this one's a little more complicated. Because, so we did our parentheses, check. Now we need to combine like terms, okay? Because we got more than one term on one side. So I got to combine like terms. Well, I know -14 and -12 are like terms. They're both numbers, right? So that's going to give me -26. And then I also have 4k and -3k. Don't forget about that sign in front. And that's going to give me, let me make this a little bigger. That's going to give me just 1k minus 26 equals 19. That hasn't changed. Now we get the variables on one side and the numbers on one side. So, I mean, for this one, we're kind of just solving. So I'm going to add 26 using inverse operations. Add 26. What I do to one side, I do the other. And I get k equals 45. And checking the answer key. Did we do that right? Hey, we did. Woohoo. And you can always check your answer, I guess, with the answer key or by plugging in whatever you get to the variables up there and seeing if it makes a true statement. Okay, cool. And 30 looked kind of complicated, so wanted to go through that one as well. So first thing, let's get rid of these parentheses by using the distributive property. When we do that, we're going to keep the sign, this negative sign, with this term. So negative n times negative 5. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that 4n, right? I just brought that down because that's not part of these parentheses at all. So negative n times negative 5n is a positive 5n. Negative times a negative is a positive. 5 times n is 5n. And then negative n times 1 is negative 1n. Write the 1, don't write the 1, it's up to you. Bring that n down, and now we are distributing this positive 2 through here, these parentheses, multiplying. And so positive 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Positive 2 times negative n, keeping that negative with the term, is going to give me negative 2n plus 10. And that doesn't change out here because it's not part of the parentheses. Okay, so I wrote it out. So I did my parentheses, check. Now I got to combine like terms because I got a bunch of like terms here that need combining. So over here on the left side, I see 4n, 5n, and negative 1n. If I combine all those, I'm going to come up with 4 plus 5 is 9, minus 1 is 8n. And that's equal to, let's combine over here, we got n, negative 2n. So n minus 2n is going to give me negative 1n. Write the 1, don't write the 1, it's up to you. And then negative 2. Oh, whoops, I forgot that other 10n, so let's undo that actually. N minus 2n plus 10n is going to give us a positive 9n. Okay, I almost forgot that. Now remember, you can only combine terms when they're on one side of the equal sign, right? So we can't combine across these. We're going to have to use inverse operations. So that's why it's like two separate combinations here. I probably should have used different colors, but hey, maybe next time. And then that negative 2, don't forget about it. Doesn't have any like terms, so that just drops in to our equation. And so now we combine like terms. It's time to get our variables on one side and our numbers on the other. So since my number's over there, I'm going ahead. My number's already here, and we got no numbers over here, so I'm going to move my variable in this instance. So I'm going to subtract 9n to get that out of there, minus 9n. 8n minus 9n gives me negative n equals, what's left over here is negative 2. Now, this is really a negative 1 multiplied by n. So to undo that negative 1, we're going to divide by negative 1 on one side. What we do to one side, we do to the other. And we are left with n equals negative 2. Whoops, that should be a negative 1 I'm dividing by. Sorry. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 is going to give me positive 2. And if we check, that looks like the answer, right? And you can always, if you're on a quiz or a test or something, plug whatever you got into all the variables of the original equation and then evaluate. And that's a good way to check on tests to make sure you did it right if you don't have the answer key, right? And if that doesn't evaluate to a true statement, then you must have made a mistake along the way, and you go back and try to find it. So, hope this helps. Let me know if you got any other math questions. Cool. Where are we at? Screencast.